Hello and welcome to our podcast, The Art of Experiences, where I'm sat here today with my two bodyguards in pink and speaking to you from our base in Dubai, the UAE. We are the guys who have created, enjoyed, designed and choreographed some of the best experiences in the best locations around the world. And we do coordinate our wardrobes as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that, Nick, of all the times, of all the days and of all the months that we have worked together, me and Arjun, I think this is the best remote coordination that we have done.
We have actually landed with the same tie for the same meeting.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to go in with partners in pink, I would say, for the meeting after this podcast. All right. So today we will be podcasting episode 10 in our new series, The Art of Experiences, where we'll be exploring future experiences and we'll be talking about various other things. We are Nick, Ravi and Arjun. We are designers, architects and techies. Above all, we are on a journey to tell the wider world why some experiences just work and some do not.
Well guys, it's great to be here. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you two people.
Very good.
Thank you. So, today's topic is quite interesting and it's something that is probably very dear to all of us. And today we will be discussing design as a way of life.
Oh, okay.
So we all three are designers
Yes.
and I think we all three have started our careers as a designer and gone through the process and the journey of being a designer and came out on the other side, and now we are actually donning different hats during the day, doing our jobs. But I think over a period of time, I think at least I have realized one thing is that the process that we follow in design, I think it's pretty much can be replicated in almost any scenarios in life. That's one. And secondly, I think being a designer and the ability to think critically and also the ability to understand how to shape the future, I think it kind of helps in my life as well. I think in a lot of my personal relationships, business relationships, friends, professional goals or personal goals, or with family, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I agree with you, Ravi. I mean, I think when I first started learning to be a designer, in all honesty, I did it because I wasn't very good at anything else, and I knew how to draw. But I don't think I really appreciated, like we said last week when we did Arjun's Just Chatting podcast, which, by the way, guys, we've seen the numbers and we know he looks like George Clooney, but at least try and watch some of our videos as well and make us feel a bit better.
We may not look like George Clooney, but yeah, at least give us a chance.
At least give us some small resemblance of success. So, yes, as I was saying, I didn't really understand how the learnings of or the method that we use when we design things could be applied to any aspect of life. And I think it's, as Arjun said last week, it's only when you get to that kind of latter stage where you've got enough experience and perhaps enough confidence to kind of look at the big decisions you've made in your life and the way you live your life to really understand that those lessons really are extremely valuable. Probably, I would say, more so than any other education that you could have. Someone's phone's ringing. Is that my phone? Oh, it's mine. I don't know who that is. You can busy that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I do know who that is. I'm surprised that person's calling me anyway.
In the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Just threw me off my track completely. But design as a way of life is about the thinking side, but also I think it's about being aware of the aesthetic that surrounds you. And obviously, you two guys are very well tuned in today because not only do you have the same
Just
shirt,
because of the topic.
You've got the same colour belt, the same colour trousers, the same colour shoes. The only difference is the socks, and I'm not going any further than that.
Thank you. Let's stop at that.
But if you look at this topic, there's a kind of what do you call it? You can segregate the topic into two buckets. Let's say, where one is the influence of design or whatever process that we've gone through to be the designer that we are today, the influence that had in our personal life, and the impact of what we do in others' lives.
Yeah.
So design is not just affecting in just one dimension, but it's kind of spreading out into everything that we do for us and for the society.
So shall we sort of put a little bit of colour on what it is? Maybe we can use pink. Maybe we can on
or black.
What it is we mean by the design thinking. I mean, I read on the internet that there are now courses available for people that work in companies to learn what design thinking is. I haven't done one. I don't know what it's like, but I can describe the process, which is very simple, and it can be adapted and applied to micro or macro situations. And it starts with strategy, understanding the problem, understanding it internally and understanding it externally, listening to people and listening to yourself, and then coming up with an idea that you put down on paper. And it's my personal belief that unless you can write something down, it's nothing. It's just an idea, and it can be interpreted in different ways. So for me, that's the beginning, a strategy, let's call it, in the loosest possible term, which frames the problem, understands all of the different elements to it, and gives you, if you like, what they call, in one of the consulting companies I used to work for, the North Star. Gives you something to aim towards. Then the next step is to conceptualize. So you come up with your idea, and you start, or lots of ideas, and you start to, again, another expression that I learned from my career, explode backwards. So you start off with lots of ideas, and then you refine them down to maybe a few. Again, if you apply that principle to any walk of life, I think it's appropriate. And then the third aspect is to refine that concept to a point at which it's ready to be presented. Whether it be, if you've had an argument with your wife, or you've had a difficulty at work, or you've been asked to solve a problem, or you've been asked to do something perhaps you might be familiar with or unfamiliar with, you get to that place where you've refined the concept. And then the final part is actually specifying or talking about it, the method with which you articulate that solution, be it in a drawing pack if you're an architect, or be it in a piece of digital if you're a digital designer, or verbally if it's a more kind of relationship-based thing. So for me anyway, those are the kind of broadest principles. Obviously underneath it there's a lot of other things, but if you focus on those 4 or 5 things, I think you can really apply those rules to any problem or opportunity that you face in life.
Correct. See, actually, you're absolutely right, first of all, and I agree that the process that we follow in design can be overlaid onto any situation in life. Also, having said that, I think it's not only that, designers are the only people who are successful in life, or the people who understand design thinking. I think design thinking has been part of our life since very long. It's now that it has been recognized and coined a term that a design thinking, But traditionally, if you see, or historically, the accountants are successful, doctors are successful, management executives are successful, So every walk of life you go, sports people are successful. So they do have design thinking in their own ways and in own formats, and something which is applicable to their own field of life. It's just that it was not generalized before, and then actually picked up and say that okay, this is a design thinking, and these are the rules and laws of what you should follow, and then these can be applied. And now the generalization has happened now. Otherwise, a doctor or a lawyer or a sports person always applied these laws in their regular lives to become more and more successful, and what it does is that actually it refines your own self, the more and more you apply, and then more and more you become successful or learn lessons, vice versa, it really refines you as an individual,
it does.
And I think that's the best part of design thinking.
No, but I think that's a two-way street, a very symbiotic relationship where you have a different perspective with the so-called design thinking, or the process that you learn over a period of time on how you can come up with solutions. As the saying goes, I'm sure this is applicable to a lot of professionals, but architects are people who create problems on their own and then find solution to it.
Yeah.
So when you go through that kind of a process, definitely there's a lot of learning that you do, you grow, and then it becomes a two-way street where you start applying the new learning and the new evolved you into your own process and making that better.
Yeah.
But going back to the design thinking, like if you look at it right now, everything has got the design factor associated with it. There are people who will design your career, who will design your life, who will design your diet, who will design your health, who would even design your hair. Not just in terms of a parlor or a salon. I'm also talking about in terms of restoring your hair and things of that sort. So I was just going through that over the weekend, and I was just intrigued by the term design in that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Arjun. I think that just to add kind of another perspective to what you're saying, I was having a conversation with my son yesterday, Sammy, and he was talking about me, and he was saying some nice things about me. That's just because I'm paying his rent at the moment. But he was saying some. I don't mean it, Sammy, if you're listening. But he, and I'm not either. But he was saying some nice things about me, and he was asking me, how do I remain relevant? Now I don't know whether I am or not relevant, but in his eyes, he's 21. He thinks I'm relevant. So, and I come back to the principles that I just described. There's often describe it as being almost a complete individual, but with a few pieces missing. And one of those pieces missing in the jigsaw puzzle that makes Nick is the fact that I'm always hungry to learn new things, and I'm always hungry to explore new ideas and new concepts and new ways of doing things, and keen to ride the wave. And I think some people struggle with that. Some people they get themselves on the kind of into the sausage machine of life. They get fed in at one end and they come out the other end and they wonder what happened. And I think personally, I don't know whether you guys are the same, but from my perspective, the idea of remaining the same bores me to death. The idea that I'm always hungry, conceptualizing, trying to understand, trying to build a framework with which I can understand and explore, is something that drives me forward in all sorts of aspects. Whether a particular type of music that I like, particular type of fashion that I like. Those of you that watch this may realise my fashion sense is very simple, as is these two gentlemen.
Steve Jobs.
And whether it's work related, whether it's sport related, whether it's family related, the idea of building kind of pillars upon which anarchy reigns is something that I love, and I think it's partly because of my training as a person. I don't just design things; I live design. I live it every day.
True.
Yeah,
That is true.
I mean, what do you think, Ravi? I mean, would you agree with that? Or?
Yes, I do agree. And knowing the person you are, Nick, I think what keeps you alive is, I think, exploring new things every day.
Yeah.
And I think no 2 days of your life are the same. And I think you don't even want the 2 days to be same in your life. And I think you enjoy that ride of yours, and that's exactly what makes you as a person that you are. And coming back to what we are talking about, design thinking, and what keeps you relevant and everything. I think understanding where the trends are going, and understanding how you utilize those things in your daily life, in problem solving, in tackling certain root cause issues, those are really actually what keeps us relevant as well, because approaching the same problem but with a different approach altogether that's what I think is staying relevant, as since we are from a design background, and since we have all three of us worked in the design industry, quite extensively. Now we know that the design industry is completely changing.
Yeah.
The lines between the different verticals are blurring. Today people are not looking at a design agency, but they're looking at probably an experiential agency. Where you experiment with digital, you experiment with brand, you experiment with physical, you experiment with user experience, customer experiences, so many different things. And it won't be a surprise to see various kind of designers working under the same umbrella.
Yes.
In the old days, you would have an industrial designer working only for product design or industrial designs, or graphic designer or brand designer only working for a branding agency. But today it's not the case.
No.
The digital evolution has kind of blurred the lines, but created a completely new era altogether.
Yes.
In terms of design.
Yeah, I agree.
But then the designers these days, like for example, let's take Nick as an example here. He's a pure industrial product designer, wherein that is his roots and he has stuck to it. Now then comes hybrid versions like me, where I'm actually an architect and then I moved on to product design, did a bit of this, did a bit of that. I think that's trying to find my relevant ground where I feel where I can sustain myself and make myself relevant. So coming back to the point of the various verticals, the lines that defines various vertical getting blurred, I think eventually moving forward, I don't think 5 years from now there would be a pure designer who does just one thing. There would be designers who can do multiple things, because eventually it's all gonna go towards the point of experience design, where it's all about what the customer journey is, what the customer experience is, and no matter what the channel through which that experience has to be delivered, there will be multiple designers who can do multiple things who's working on that experience. So that design thinking or let's say the principle based on which the design route was built at one point of time, let's say about 5 or 10 years ago, is evolving into something really dynamic and something new now.
Do you know what, Arjun? I'm really sorry, mate. I don't agree with you. Sorry. I think the future is very different to the future that you're describing. Don't be offended. We like robust conversations on this podcast, but when I think about the future, I don't think that you'll end up with people who are what we peculiarly call in my language a jack of all trades, so a designer that can do everything. I think quite the opposite. I think what you'll end up with are specialists. And rather than somebody trying to be everything to everyone, I think that you'll find people who have gone narrow and deep, and they've decided that they're going to work specifically on this, and they'll collaborate with people who are specifically working on that or something else. And I think, I don't know, my personal view, and it'll be interesting to see how it works, Arjun. Maybe there'll be a combination of both, but I think the future for me is more collaborative. We've gone through a pandemic. We're now, thank God willing, we're out the other side of this pandemic now. And it's taught us so much about collaboration. We no longer have to jump on an aeroplane and go and visit somebody on the other side of the world. We can go online and we can find that person, and people that were not comfortable with it before, and I'm not one of them, by the way, I was always comfortable with it, are now working with people remotely in different locations, either in their own city or town or country, or internationally, or really super internationally on other sides of the globe. And that sense of collaboration and specialism, I think, is something that was a little bit missing before. And I think we're also kind of forced, if you like, because of an unreal barrier that didn't exist, into trying to do everything all the time. And one of my friends, another friend of mine, much smarter than me, he said to me, "Look, Nick, always apply the 80-20 rule," and that's a really corny expression. But he said to me, "Nick, if you know 80% of something and you need to learn 20%, you'll be successful. If you know 20% of something and you have to learn 80%, you'll fail." And that rule has stuck with me. And thank you, Tarek, for that, by the way, if you're listening. That rule has stuck with me. And so that's what I think. Sorry, it's a completely different view to yours, Arjun. But
I think probably you're talking from the perspective of a design consultancy as a brand. They would want to go narrow and deep. But as designers working for the brand who's actually delivering the work, if I am relevant only for a certain small area within the big organization, I do not have too much of experience apart from a bit of product design or a bit of graphic design. I'm not relevant, or I wouldn't be able to give my viewpoints and be useful in the journey of that design for any other part. I would rather prefer if the designers, even if they're going narrow and deep, they still have experience in other reams so that they are actually becoming better designers.
It's interesting. I mean, sorry, Ravi, I'll let you speak in a minute, but I just want to say one more thing. I've worked for companies that have had broad experience, and I've worked for companies that are focused on a particular sector. Both of them have an appeal. So the ones that focused on a specific sector, I remember very famously, and these guys know exactly the story, going to pitch for a project as a designer, and got down to the last two and pitched, did a brilliant pitch, everything was amazing, and the client decided they didn't want to work with a specialist, they wanted to work with the non-specialist, the anti who we were. And then on other occasions it's been the other way around. So I don't know the answer, but I do hear what you're saying. It depends perhaps at the level at which you specialise. If it's at the corporate level, maybe there's something in it. If it's at the individual level, maybe it's a bit risky to be a specialist in alias software, because eventually everyone can use it. It's like Photoshop.
Exactly.
Eventually everyone uses it. It's just a tool.
Exactly.
So I don't know the answer. Yeah.
I think I agree to both of you.
Oh, that's good.
And do not agree to both of you.
Oh, God, here we go.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. So I think both of you are talking two different things, but I think two different things can coexist.
Okay.
And when we talk about, I actually believe in narrow and deep, and that's the way forward.
Yeah.
And that will always remain. It was before, it is now, and it will always remain in the future as well, many hundreds of years to come. But what's going to change is that, I think the embedment of technology within your skill sets, within your core competence is going to be something which is taken as granted or taken as expected, So for example, an architect knowing various softwares, we are talking about various AI powered survey tools, all those things will be part of your daily life. Right now we are talking, we are looking at them something as a new technology, but then over a period of time it will be part of your life. It will be expected that you do these things.
Yeah.
Branding going digital, and digital looking at the brand, it's going to be expected. Now to talk about non-designers also, if we talk about lawyers, for them to understand cyber laws, improvise on the intellectual property rights, and getting into nitty-gritties and various complexities of those will be expected out of those lawyers.
Yes. Yes.
When we talk about doctors, it will be expected that they know about the different equipments that they can work with to treat a patient.
Yeah.
It's not about that this equipment comes with a specialist and the doctor doesn't know about it. So that's something. The technology as it grows more and more, it becomes refined. It's going to be embedded within your core skill competence. So having those lines blurred or having those narrow and deep, both will coexist. Because having technology at your fingertips will allow you to do various other things which as a typical core competency you wouldn't have been able to do it. And at the same time it will also allow you to be actually go much narrower and deeper in your own skill sets, to make a specialist out of it.
I mean, I don't agree with you. Sorry.
I expected that.
That's the beauty of it,
I
right?
expected that. Your face going this way.
What the hell are you saying?
I looked at you and I expected. Yes,
I do not
he's
agree
coming.
with you, and you.
So it's
Ravi.
well established, guys, that we don't agree to each other. So that's fine.
Luckily, as you can see, we love each other. We even share clothes. Yeah. So what was I thinking? I think that what you were describing wasn't design thinking. I think what you were describing is an obligation. It's an obligation if you're a lawyer to learn about law. It's an obligation if you're a doctor to learn about new technology. Design thinking and the design as a way of life, for me, is about saying, why is it done that way? It's not about taking the thoughts and products and services that somebody else has developed. It's about saying, why are we doing that? Why is it being done this way? How can we do it better? And then perhaps along that journey you introduce products and service and things that other people have delivered, but it starts with a pure thought: how can it be done better? How can it be done easier, simpler, more cost effective, or whatever the question is? How can I improve my relationship? How can I do this? How can I do that? And in order to get to that place, I think you have to frame what you want to achieve, and then you have to go out there and you have to see whether it's available, and if it isn't, you need to invent it. This is what design is all about. Like we do here every day. We have problem no 2 days are the same here, which doesn't suit everybody. It suits us, but it doesn't suit everyone. Every day we come here and we sit in this office and we say, how can we do it better?
Mm-hmm.
How can we stop using these crappy tools or dealing with this crappy bank or this useless whatever person or thing, and how can we do it better? So that's design thinking for me, Ravi.
Yeah.
If I'm to take one step backwards, I would say probably how can we do it better, for me would fall under improvisation and innovation, which is again part of the design thinking.
Yeah.
But for me, the starting point would be taking the route to understand: is it a functional thing what you're looking at? Is a functional solution? Is it a problem which demands a functional solution?
Yeah.
Or what are we looking at is an art-based statement, what we are trying to make in terms
an emotional
of
solution.
an emotional solution.
Yeah.
So probably that's where it would all start, which would kind of define the process that you would want to take. And then then the next step would be, with your experience, you would actually know, you would be able to jot out the path that solution is going to take. But then comes the part what Nick was talking about, where you ask yourself, how can we do it better? Mm-hmm. I've done this 10 times before. I know exactly what the pitfalls are. I also know how to jump those hurdles, but how can I deliver a better experience for the end user?
Yeah.
And that's exactly where we started improvising and moving that one step ahead each time you try to deliver the same thing in a different way. Yeah. And I believe that's exactly where the design thinking starts evolving and getting better.
Also the fact that, I think it's
Sorry.
Also the fact that, it's doing things differently every time you approach may be a good idea. But also we need to think about the fact that, is it well suited to the solution and to the context of what we are talking about or what we are doing about, So sometimes some things demand simple solutions and sometimes things may be complex, but complex things may also demand simple solutions, So to work through that and to understand the complexities involved in a particular problem that we have at hand, and how do we approach that, and it's all, I think design, as much as any problem in life, is contextual. It all depends on that particular surroundings, the instance, the time, the people involved, the times involved, and that what shapes the solution to that particular problem. So as we say, one size does not fit all. It has to be tailor-made. It is tailor-made, whether we do it knowingly or you do it unknowingly. It is always tailor-made. So this is what I think. So as we move forward, I think it's going to be a wonderful but a complex mixing of technology, experience, expertise, development into new areas, new actually avenues opening up, and new things coming onto the picture, all that stuff, I mean, just an example, 15 years back, we wouldn't have thought about outsourcing. No. Outsourcing started 25 years back, but I'm talking about knowledge outsourcing and legal outsourcing, medical outsourcing. These were the things which were kind of untouched. The outsourcing was only limited to the back office work. But today everything is outsourced. So there you go. So new avenues will develop, and that's what I believe that as one person, if you want to be relevant, you need to understand how to use these new things.
I think you're right, Ravi. I mean, I think the idea that something that's standing still is dying is a principle that all of us have to take in life. If something stays the same, it's dying.
Yeah.
And or it's going backwards. And the only way to move forward is to be innovative, to apply those principles of strategic thinking, conceptualizing, refining your concepts, and then providing a mechanism to deliver those concepts, intellectual, physical, emotional, whatever they are, has to be the way. And the more of us that do it, the more rich the world will be because of it. And there'll be a lot of failure, a lot. But there'll be some successes.
Absolutely.
And those successes now will be heard because we have a mechanism to talk about our ideas through the internet. We can share our ideas with people, good and bad, and all sorts of perspectives. But the principle still remains the same. If you stand still, you're dying. If you're innovating and challenging and thinking, you're growing and moving forwards, even if you fail.
Correct.
And that's, I think, the principle of design thinking, for me anyway. I mean, it's what it taught me, and I live my life by it.
True, very true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a fantastic discussion we had, guys.
Yeah, well, and funny enough, actually, we've managed to hit the button as well. Dominique's got a very large timer. By the way, we promised you Dominique last week. Why didn't you come around and say hi, Dom?
Maybe you can wear the face mask.
Yeah, maybe we'll do just chatting with Dominique next week. Yeah? What do you think?
I think let's we should have. I think there are a couple of people who are lined up for just chatting, and we should do it in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right, guys. So we've got 18 seconds left. If you could please show us the script, and then we can read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom.
Have you said everything you wanted to say,
Yeah.
Arjun? Have you said everything you want to say, Ravi?
I think so. I think this is a topic which can be. I think it can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I think more and more we talk about. I think the one thing which I realized, guys, is that it's so much relevant to our daily lives. So much relevant. If you think about each and every small things that happens in your life, even talking to my kids, talking to my parents, talking to my wife, going to a normal mall visit or anything, it just happens. I mean, every time when you don't think that. I mean, it's not like we don't submit a proposal to buy, go on a shopping spree. But it happens that way, what clothes you want, what are you looking for, the winter is coming, so those kind of clothes have to be there. Are we going anywhere outdoors, So all those things actually happen in our mind. It doesn't really happen like in a very structured way, the way we do it in our professional lives.
True.
But it does happen,
True.
And that's what kind of we have embedded ourselves with those kind of a thought process.
Yeah, I agree.
Very true.
The other thing is, as a designer, you learn just not to look, but you learn to see. Which is a big thing. We didn't even get onto that topic, but that's another thing.
I wonder what a project manager would say.
I wonder. I wonder. Guys, thank you for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please continue to listen. Continue to share your ideas and thoughts with us. As we've said in this podcast, we only get better by being challenged. So write nice things to us. Give us your ideas about things you'd like to hear us talk about. I guess at this point, I'd also just like to give a big shout out to Elsa, who's one of our listeners, who wrote me a very nice message the other day to say how much she enjoyed the podcast. So thank you, Elsa, if you're listening to this, from Arjun and from Ravi and from me. Thank you very much. I'm going to read the outro now, and then I'll look forward to speaking to you next week, inshallah. I might not be here next week for personal reasons, but I'll leave you in the capable hands of these two fantastic men, and maybe Dominique will take my seat. So thanks for listening to The Art of Experiences with Nick, that's me, with Ravi, that's this gentleman on my left, and with Arjun, gentleman on the right. Thank you to our producer Dominique, the invisible Dom, who you'll get to meet one of these days. And thanks for editing the podcast. Yeah. Or you can follow her on Instagram at what is it?
She was just waiting for the
One thing
opportunity.
we can promise you will never be bored.
You can find Dominique on LinkedIn if you want to connect with her. No. Yeah. Dominique Francisco. Okay, that's it. All said and done. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ravi.
Before I read through my outro, I think one thing is very sure is that the podcast will never happen without you. So yeah, as much as I like the emotional outro that you read currently, but you're not going anywhere. And Dom will definitely be part of the podcast, but she will be the fourth person.
Okay, all right.
So yes, and there are personal reasons, and we are also very excited for a change. We are excited for Nick's absence actually. So yes, all the exciting news will come through you guys. I think we just have to wait through it, and yes, there will be good times around. So here I go, I read my outro. If you enjoyed our show, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Art of Experiences, and leave your comments below. Thank you.
Okay, so join us on our next podcast. We will be telling you what it means to be a design guardian.
That's interesting.
Yes, that's going to be touching a whole lot of different realms of design too.
Looking forward to that, Arjun.
I know about Roman guardians, so I didn't know about design guardians.
I think you should sit in the middle next time around, Arjun. So you can lead the conversation, because this is a topic that Arjun is particularly passionate about, and
he's a
is
crusader of the topic.
Yeah, like a pioneer, one would say. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Lots of love to you all. Stay safe, and speak to you next week.
Thank you.